When the angry Sacred Blood Fox King limped back to the top of the dune, the team had dashed out of the skulk. Almost without any hesitation, Han Sen roared at Wang Mingming, "Summon your mount." Wang Mingming quickly summoned the big white bear. Han Sen leapt on the bear, and Wang urged the bear on at full speed. The skulk of foxes was snapping at their heels, but only the few mutant horned sand foxes could catch up with the team's mutant mounts. Han Sen thought that the skulk would give up the chase soon, since their king was injured and could not catch up with them. However, they soon heard a strange howl, and what they saw was shocking. The Fox King was standing on top of the head of a golden rock worm and, gazing at Han Sen, bristled. F***K. This Fox King is abnormal. How could it command the rockworm? Is the rockworm also a sacred blood creature? Cried Su Xiaoqiao. The team saw the golden rockworm approach them at a high speed and was horror-struck. You go east, I will go west. Han Sen then asked Wang Mingming to control her bear to go west. Now Wang Mingming almost trusted Han Sen blindly and did not even think about it before doing what he said. You have to be careful. Gambler had already understood Han Sen's plan and led the rest to the east. The Fox King ordered the rockworm and mutant foxes to chase Han and Wang immediately. A fox never forgets. It would never give up until it tore Han Sen apart. Han Sen had already taken the Fairy Queen back to save his strength. He had also untied the rope and sat Wang in front of him so she could better control the bear. Fox King, come if you want to eat me, Han Sen said, and suddenly shot an arrow, killing a mutant fox in the blink of an eye. The Fox King was stamping with rage, roaring on top of the golden rock worm's head. The worm moved faster. The mutant foxes were also trying to catch up with the bear. Han Sen glanced at the Fox King and shot another mutant fox dead. Watching the Fox King losing its temper, Han Sen laughed. Fox King, come at me if you will, and watch me kill your buddies. Han Sen's hands never stopped, his black stinger arrow killing one mutant fox after another. Mutant horned sand fox killed. Beast soul of mutant horned sand fox gained. Eat its meat to gain 0 to 10 mutant geno points randomly. Suddenly a different voice sounded in Han Sen's mind. He gained a mutant horned sand fox beast soul. With great joy, Han Sen was shooting with great strength. The Fox King was about to explode. The white bear was a sacred blood mount, so the golden rock worm could not catch up with him anytime soon. Finally, at a howl of the Fox King, all the mutant foxes stopped chasing. Only the Fox King continued with the rock worm as its mount. There were no more mutant foxes for him to kill, so Han Sen made the Fox King his target. This time the Fox King was prepared and dodged. Although the distance was short, the arrow ended up hitting the golden rock worm. Clank! It sounded like the worm had a shell harder than metal. The mutant black stinger arrow only left a white mark that was barely visible on it. Han Sen was taken aback with a surprise. Sure enough, the golden rockworm is also a sacred blood creature. Brother Han, now what should we do? The white bear is slower than the golden rockworm. They will catch up eventually, asked Wang Mingming, riding the bear. She did not sound scared or worried, as for some reason, she believed Han Sen could always take care of things. In such a dangerous escape, she did not even have any sense of crisis. Although there were occasionally some creatures in front of them, they would scatter at the sight of the golden rock worm. Hence they did not encounter any obstacles on the way. The rock worms are only fast in the desert. If we can get out of here, we should be able to get rid of it, Han Sen pondered and said. It's full of sand and rocks here. I do not see any other color. Wang Mingming looked around, said disappointedly, just dunes and stony hills. Han Sen's eyes suddenly lit up. Pointing in one direction, he said, go over there. Wang Mingming followed his order and urged the bear on. Soon she found they were on a cliff facing a deep valley. The path ended and the valley was at least 100 feet wide. Brother Han, we have nowhere to go, exclaimed Wang Mingming. Go over, Han Sen said with no expression. No, the white bear cannot jump so far, Wang Mingming quickly said, seeing the big white bear approaching the edge. Trust me. Go over, said Han Sen firmly, while pointing an arrow at the Fox King. Knowing their despair, the Fox King looked cruel and pleased. Well, Brother Han, I believe you. Going over. Wang Mingming commanded her bear to rush off the edge at full speed. With her blind trust in Han Sen, Wang Mingming was trying to make the impossible happen. Behind them, the golden rock worm was getting closer and closer. The Fox King watched the two humans viciously. Pointing the arrow at the Fox King, Han Sen did not shoot. "Brother Han!" Wang Mingming screamed and closed her eyes as the white bear ran off the edge. Han Sen finally shot the arrow, put an arm around her waist, and covered her eyes with his other hand. "Take your white bear back," he said quietly. The Sacred Blood Fox King didn't even move when seeing the arrow approach. It even showed contempt in its eyes. But soon, the Fox King was aghast. That arrow was not meant for the Fox King, but a bean-sized eye of the golden rock worm. Although the golden rock worm had a huge body, its eyes were as small as beans and hidden in its stone-hard shell, hardly noticeable. Han Sen not only saw them, but also managed to shoot an arrow in one of them. With a scream, the golden rock worm rampaged toward Han Sen, who was in the air. The Sacred Blood Fox King had extremely high intelligence, but golden rock worm solely operated on instincts. Once it was provoked, it would go mad. It was too late for the Fox King to stop it, so it jumped off the worm with its injured leg as fast as it could before the worm fell off the cliff. Wang Mingming was held in Han Sen's arms and took back the bear. She felt she was falling with him. With a sudden jerk, she felt ground under her feet. The impact was not that strong, though. It was as if they had jumped from somewhere 3 or 4 feet above the ground. Wang Mingming opened her eyes in surprise to find they were under a cliff more than 300 feet high. But nothing had happened to Han Sen and her. When she was feeling incredible, the golden rock worm fell on the ground next to them like a bomb. With a boom, its stone-hard shell was broken in pieces. Worm juice, meat, and inner parts were splashing everywhere, staining the cliff wall. Sacred Blood Golden Rock Worm King killed. Beast Soul of Golden Rock Worm King gained. Eat its meat to gain 0 to 10 sacred Geno points randomly. A wonderful voice rang in his mind, almost making Han Sen laugh out loud. The Fox King was still lingering on the cliff, gazing at him full of resentment. "Let's go." Han Sen summoned his mutant three-eyed beast mountain, carried Wang to its back, and went in the opposite direction of the Fox King. "Should we take some of the worm meat with us?" Wang Mingming asked. For such a big worm, there are only 10 Geno points in its meat. Even if we eat for a month, we might still end up with no Geno points. Also, it is hot in here, and the meat will go bad in less than 2 days. "Just forget it," Han Sen said with a smile. A creature too big in size was hard to consume, which was just the fact. But he had gained another Sacred Blood Beast Soul and a mutant horned sand fox beast soul, so the voyage was fruitful enough. The only pity was that although he had killed many mutant horned sand foxes and a Sacred Blood creature, he did not even get to eat a mouthful of meat. Han Sen took a look at the 2 beast souls he just gained and felt a bit bitter. The beast soul of mutant horned sand fox was a mount, which was fine. Even if he had no use of it, he could still exchange it for something else or just sell it. The disturbing part was the beast soul of the Golden Rock Worm King. It turned out to be a Sacred Blood beast soul pet. Han Sen had been feeding Meowth for quite some time now, but it never transformed. This was a Sacred Blood pet, and God knows how much meat it would take for it to transform. And a Sacred Blood pet must be fed with a Sacred Blood meat, or else it would take even longer. Han Sen was rendered speechless. He did not even have enough Sacred Blood meat for himself. Just where could he find food for this guy? Han Sen tried to summon the Golden Rock Worm King and thought it should be huge. When it appeared, Han Sen saw that it was just a mini golden silkworm, not looking the least impressive. "Brother Han, why were we safe after jumping from the high cliff?" Wang Mingming had been puzzled. When they jumped off the cliff, she was too scared to open her eyes and did not see how they landed. In fact, even if she did not close her eyes, Han Sen was covering them anyway. He did it so that he could use the wings of the purple-winged dragon beast soul, or it could never have been done, because I know a special martial art.
Han Sen smiled.
"What kind of martial art? Can you teach me?" Wang Mingming looked at him with worship. "It only runs in the family and only sons can be taught, so I can't even teach my wife and daughter, let alone you."
Han Sen låghed.
Han Sen did not go back and try to kill the Sacred Blood Fox King. It was a sly creature. In the end, It did not escape, but stood on the cliff. Han Sen knew from its look that it was trying to lure Han Sen back to kill it. If he was alone, he could give it a try. But since Wang Mingming was here, he gave up the idea of adventure. That Fox King was the most cunning of creature he had ever seen, even more formidable than the silver bird. With this accident, the voyage had to stop. When Han Sen and Wang Mingming were on their way back to the shelter, they met Gambler and the rest. They were all well with minor injuries which had almost healed. After some discussion, they did some hunting in the outskirts of the desert and did not go to the center. They had met scary sacred blood creatures when they just entered Devil Desert. The team became more careful, especially they had to protect Wang Mingming in the meantime. Han Sen made up his mind to return as soon as they could, and he will make some in-depth exploration next time he came alone. This task was successfully completed despite the accident. Qin Xian was fairly satisfied with his performance. Because Wang Mingming worshipped Han Sen very much and named him her protector in Steel Armor Shelter, he could have an S-Class license of St. Hall as his reward. But his mission would be only completed when Wang Mingming had maxed out on all other 3 types of Geno points than Sacred Geno points. Only by then he could have the S-Class license. Han Sen went back to school from God's Sanctuary and continued to study Warframe operation. Sen, you are finally back. You are in trouble. His roommate said to him excitedly when Han Sen just returned to his dormitory. What kind of trouble?
Han Sen asket putsled.
The best player in Hand of God Society, Li Yufeng, openly challenged you in campus community, Shi Zhikong said. I do not know him. Why would he challenge me? Han Sen felt quite puzzled. Haha, everyone knows Li Yufeng is Ji Yanran's suitor. And with your ID name, the entire school now knows you as Ji Yanran's boyfriend. Of course Li Yufeng needs to challenge you. He said if you lose, you need to change your ID name or stop using that account. And you will also have to apologize to Ji Yanran, said Lu Meng with a trace of joy in his voice. Sen, are you going for it? Shi looked at Han Sen with hidden excitement. He felt even Han Sen's opponent was Li Yufeng, Han would still win. Although Shi had never seen Li Yufeng play, he believed so. Han Sen's performance so far made him think that Han must be almost invincible in this game. Lu Meng and Zhang Yang were also looking at Han Sen, awaiting his decision. Of course I will, Han Sen said casually. Ji Yanran was the girlfriend he won with a bet. Although he was too busy to look for her, he would not allow other guys to use himself to impress her. In the Han Sen's view, it was fine if he tried to show off in front of Ji Yanran, but there was no way Han Sen would allow himself to be used in the process. Hearing Han Sen's answer, Shi and Lu were both thrilled. Zhang Yang rubbed his hands together and said, Now that's it. Young people should be motivated, and we all support you to defeat Li Yufeng and make Ji Yanran your girlfriend for real. Right. If you really have such a gorgeous girlfriend, the entire room 304 would all feel honored, said Shi excitedly. Go on the forum and reply him with a time for the duel. Sun has a big chance to beat Li, in my opinion. Lu Meng laughed. Chance? Li Yufeng is no match to Sen at all. Shi curled his lips downward and said. Han Sen went to the campus community forum and found the post at the top. After he clicked on it, he replied with a time using his account My girlfriend is Jianran. 10:30 p.m. Han Sen left just the time and did not even bother to read Li Yufeng's post. Han Sen never took any of his schoolmates as a serious match of his. In a short amount of time, his reply attracted the attention of all the students. Because Li Yufeng's post had been up for several days, people thought Ji Yanran's boyfriend was too scared to reply. But today, seeing his reply and the ID name, a student was in shock. Having rubbed his eyes and confirmed several times, he started to spread the news. Haha, Ji Yanran's boyfriend replied directly with the time of the duel. We have something to watch. Really? He did that? So daring. It is Li Yufeng. What about Li Yufeng? I think Ji Yanran's boyfriend is definitely stronger. That is hard to say. After all, Li Yufeng is a professional player and the best on campus. He also had good performance in the contest across the alliance. How do you know that Ji Yanran's boyfriend is not professional? That makes sense. No one knows who Ji Yanran's boyfriend is, so he could be a professional player as well. Would it be Ouyang Xiaosan? I think not. According to Ouyang Xiaosan's character, he would not have replied at all. If it's not Ouyang Xiaosan, Then who can it be? I really cannot think of anyone in the school who is so strong. Could it be a freshman? How can that be? Freshmen are all rookies. If there is such an outstanding person, we should have known when they had the entrance exam. Soon the duel between Li Yufeng and Ji Yanran's boyfriend was known by the entire school. Yanran, your boyfriend appeared. Chu Lily ran to the training hall, panting. Ji Yanran paused and bristled. I said 1,000,000 times that he is not my boyfriend, so do not call him that. Chu Lily took Ji Yanran's hand, grinned and said, I know. I won't do that again, but you're? My girlfriend is Jianran said online that he would have a duel against Li Yufeng tonight at 10:30. Yanran, I envy you that there are two great guys fighting for you, making you quite the princess, Chu Lily said admiringly. You can have them both if you want, Ji Yanran said sullenly. She did not really like Li Yufeng, but Li had been chasing after her for 2 years. She was quite upset by his pursuit. As for my girlfriend is Jianran, he was using such a devious means that Ji Yanran had even less interest in him. But Ji Yanran was still a little curious and wanted to find out who that person was. In addition to lashing out at him, she also wanted to know who had such a good level as Li Yufeng and Ouyang Shaosan. If he is not beyond salvation, she could consider recruiting him into her society so that their ranking this year could be further enhanced. I want to, but they did not do it for me, Chu Lily complained. If there are 2 men at a duel for me, I will give them a chance. You little fool. You said 10:30 tonight, right? Ji Yanran asked. Yes, your boyfriend said that, said Chu Lily. Ji Yanran was speechless, but she was not about to correct Chu Lily. In fact, the entire school called him that, and she was just powerless. This time I will find out who you are. Ji Yanran stopped training and went back to get ready to see their duel. As soon as she watched that person play, she should be able to tell who he was from his style. Unless he was not one of the players on campus, she would have an idea. After Li Yufeng saw the reply, his eyes lit up and continued his hand of God training. Boss, Ji Yanran's boyfriend replied. A thin man rushed in and exclaimed. Li Yufeng suddenly frowned at him, so the thin man quickly corrected himself. No, the despicable guy replied 10:30 tonight. I have seen it. Li Yufeng said casually. Boss, you must kick his ass this time and prove our society's worth, said the thin man. I will not go easy on him, said Li Yufeng coldly. This duel had caught the attention of the entire school. No one dared to gamble in a military school, but students were betting in private and more were betting on Li Yufeng. After all, Li Yufeng was the best player on campus and his skills were indeed amazing. For the last 2 years, the reason Blackhawk got good ranking in the Alliance was him. So students trusted him. At 10:30 at night, the BattleNet had a historical number of students online. Many of those who did not play this game even registered new accounts to watch this duel. Ji Yanran was also watching. When she saw Li Yufeng had a game room set up, she entered the room. In fact, 80% of those online were in this game room to wait for them to start. The rest saw there was still time and started gaming themselves. When it was about time, the number of people in this game room was more than 90% of all the students online, and more people were flooding in. In an office building of Blackhawk, 2 middle-aged men were also in this game room. One of them lit a cigarette and said casually, Lou, you are too sensitive. You know what kind of students we have. Unless Ji Yanran's boyfriend is Ouyang Shaosan, his level will not be very high. Maybe we will have some new talent. Lu Zhengwo just smiled. What kind of new talent can there be? This year's freshmen are not that impressive. Zhao Lianhua blew a smoke ring and said, if that person is Ouyang Shaosan, maybe he could beat Li Yufeng. If not, Li Yufeng could certainly beat him by 5 points or more. Let's check it out first. Even if he loses to Li Yufeng by 5 points, it would still mean that he is a strong player. Our Hand of God Society has not made much progress in the past 2 years, so maybe it's time to add some fresh talents, Lu Zhengwo said. Lu Zhengwo was the coach of Hand of God Society, and Zhao Lianhua was the manager. After they had heard about the ins and outs of things, they also logged in the BattleNet and would like to see for themselves what level Ji Yanran's boyfriend was on. Zhao Lianhua did not care about this person, as they knew the level of all the returning students who played well and saw how the freshmen performed in their entrance exam. The good ones were either already invited to join Hand of God Society or other societies. Even if there was someone out there, that person could not beat Li Yufeng. Freshmen were just freshmen. Lu Jiangwo was just trying to hunt for talent. If not, he could also check to see which level of Li Yufeng had actually reached. At 10:30, everyone suddenly saw a notification. My girlfriend is Jinran entered the room.
Ah, finally.
The crowd was overjoyed. Ji Yin ran through an angry gaze at the ID and vowed to find him. Zhang Yang, Lu Ming, and Shi were not online, but standing next to Han Sen, watching his holographic image directly, which was more interesting than viewing it online. Seeing that ID, coldness flashed in Li's eyes. He simply sent an invite and texted, "After you lose, I want you to get rid of this ID immediately and apologize to Ji Yanran." Everyone was staring at the screen, wondering what my girlfriend is Jianran would say to that. It is too easy to beat you, so no strings attached this time. Just leave my Yanran alone in the future. Seeing this line from my girlfriend is Jianran, the screen was full in an instant. Haha, shameless just like me. He's too arrogant. Brag if you want. Our boss will not lose to you, idiot.
Ah, Malasia Yanran.
Is he really Ji Yanran's boyfriend? Just leave my Yanran alone. Just leave my Yanran alone. Now he is bragging. It would be so shameful when he got his ass kicked. This person is really arrogant, Wang Long said in a bad mood. Li Zhe, what do you think? Lu Ke looked at Li Zhe with a wry smile. Li Zhe pondered for a moment and said, I used to play against Li Yufeng. He has beaten me many times, and once by 27 points. You mean that Li Yufeng will win? Lu Ke looked at Li Zhe and asked. Li Zhe shook his head and said, although Li Yufeng had beaten me by more points, but Ji Yanran's boyfriend gave me more pressure than Li Yufeng. When facing Li Yufeng, I could calm down to play. When facing Ji Yanran's boyfriend, I felt uneasy and afraid. Taking a deep breath, Li Zhe then said, if I am to predict the result, I think Li Yufeng will be defeated by a lot. Don't ask me why, it's just a hunch. What? Wang Long and Lu Ke were stupefied and did not understand Li Zhe's comment. Chu Lily pinched Ji Yanran and said with a grin, my Yanran, so intimate. Tell me the truth, is he really your boyfriend? Of course he is not, that bastard. Ji Yanran stared at the ID angrily. If the game was not about to begin, she wanted to lash out at that guy in person. It begins. Seeing the countdown end, the light spots lit up on both sides. Li Yufeng's fingers danced like a snake and almost hit a spot the moment it lit up. Because he did not really know his opponent's style, and this guy had won Li Zhe by 20 points, Li Yufeng played safe and chose to clear up his own side and gain points as fast as he could, so as to beat his opponent in a dignified way. Li Yufeng was playing very well, and he was quite satisfied with how he performed. With a glance, he saw his opponent also hitting a spot at a speed no lower than his, which made him pause. In the momentary pause, his opponent went for another spot. Li Yufeng quickly calmed himself down and hit his second spot as fast as he could. Knowing his opponent's speed, Li Yufeng did not dare to be distracted again and played with his best speed and skills. The two players' hands were like two butterflies dancing away, hitting all the light spots around them at an amazing speed. The game room was silent. In a room where more than 10,000 people were watching, none typed anything. Everyone was staring at their screen. It was not because the duel was so wonderful, but because it was not at all. A person's speed had been completely overwhelmed by the other person. Even one with high myopia without glasses could tell there was no twists and turns in this game. Everyone had a blank look on their faces, with their eyes and mouths both wide open. Ji Yanran's lips were also O-shaped. Watching the holographic image of the game, she was so stunned that her pupils enlarged. In the office building, Lu Jiangwo was also stupefied. He almost could not believe his eyes. And Zhao Lianhua did not even realize that his burning cigarette had fallen on his pants. Zhao Lianhua did not even feel that and kept gazing at the two hands in the holographic image. Li Zhe, Lu Ke, and Wang Long were all stunned. A huge gap in strength was demonstrated by these two hands. Li Yufeng's hand had a speed and flexibility that were amazing to begin with. But in front of the other hand, Li Yufeng's hand suddenly looked a bit clumsy. And this feeling was just incredible, because this was Li Yufeng, the best player on campus, who had a nickname, Dreamy Right Hand. How could his hand look clumsy? It was hard for the viewers to believe their own judgment. But in contrast to the other hand, Li Yufeng's hand did look clumsy. It was originally not the case, but the strong contrast had made people feel this way. It was not because Li Yufeng's hand was clumsy, but because the other hand was too fast and too flexible. At this time, people came to realize this fact and looked to the other hand. Slender but strong, this was an attractive hand. In addition to that, people could not tell anything else from the image. How they wanted to see the owner of the hand. But in Hand of God, all they could see was the hand and wrist. There was no way they could tell who he was. Total silence. Although the result was clear, many refused to believe that Li Yufeng would be beaten like this. That was Li Yufeng. Li Yufeng concentrated on his hand and raised its speed to his limit, constantly hitting the spots. At least I will beat him by 5 points, Li Yufeng thought proudly. He knew Ji Yinran was certainly watching this game, and he was glad to show off his strength in front of her. Although Ji Yinran had not given any response to his pursuit, and was even deliberately keeping distance from him, he had never given up and believed that with his ability and conditions, he must have the opportunity to make her his. And this was a very good opportunity. He knew Ji Yinran was mad at that ID. If he could beat this person to make him change his ID and apologize to her, she would be at least grateful to him. And this was enough. Li Yufeng had enough time and patience. Many a little make a mickle. He believed that sooner or later he could make Ji Yinran fall in love with him. But now, first he needed to beat this despicable and shameless bastard to approach his goddess. Li Yufeng was hitting the spots with all he had, thinking that if he went faster and raised the difference to 6 or 7 points, then the effect might be even better. But when Li Yufeng was reaching for a spot again, all spots suddenly disappeared. Is it a server failure? Why did all the spots disappear?
Li Yufeng hesitata.
With his rich experience, he knew that the 100 spots were not up yet, and there could be no other explanation to their disappearance than a technical failure. But when he looked up, he was suddenly stunned. In front of him, the holographic image said, "Game over," and his score was also fixed at 80. He turned his eyes and looked at his opponent's score. 100 points. Li Yufeng could not move. He could not believe that he had been beaten by 20 points. He could not believe this, nor could anyone who knew Li Yufeng and his skills at this game. Everyone looked blankly at that score, and no one made a sound. What Han Sen said just now was interesting when they were thinking back. It is too easy to beat you, so no strings attached this time. Just leave my Yinran alone in the future. At that time, they all felt it was pure insolence. But now thinking back, it was just honesty. Another 20. Li Zhe snapped to attention and said with a wry smile. His remark reminded Lu Ku and Wang Long, making their shocking expression even more twisted. Their mouths were so wide open that they could fit a big duck egg. This number was so familiar, and what it represented was even more shocking. Yinran, your boyfriend is so fierce. Chu Lily just recovered from surprise and said to Ji Yinran, who was still staring at the score. Who is this person? Ji Yinran had now forgotten about her anger and shame and simply wanted to find out who he was. 20 points. Whoever could beat Li Yufeng by 20 was absolutely top 10 in the alliance. If she could invite him into Hand of God Society, Ji Yinran could imagine how much their ranking could be improved. Now she just wanted to find out who this person was, but she just did not know. Now her heart felt like it was scratched by a cat. She wanted to go and look for him, but paused as she had no idea where to look. Ouch! The cigarette burned through Zhao Lianhua's pants and brought him back from surprise. While he was stamping, a big hole was left on his pants. I must have this person in Hand of God Society. Lu Jiangwo looked at the score and yelled excitedly. He knew what this score meant. It was a score that would make Black Hawk soar in Hand of God contest. Go get this person and make him join us, Lu Jiangwo said to Zhao Lianhua. Zhao Lianhua looked depressed. Lu, I do not even know who this person is. Where should I start looking? Lu Jiangwo paused and said, Go look anyway. In any case, we must have him. He is too important for us. With him, we would soar, and it would be much easier for you to seek sponsorship in the future. I will try, Zhao Lianhua said helplessly. He knew this guy would have a great influence on them, but it was not easy to find someone based just on an ID. When Li Yufeng recovered from surprise and wanted to invite the guy to fight again, he found that his opponent was already offline. He was at loss and did not move for a long time. Blackhawk went mad. It was at night, but many continued to talk about the duel. What a speed! #King Awesome. Haha, after watching the duel, I know that my years of playing that game were wasted. Even Li Yufeng was wiped out. Ji Yanran's boyfriend was just amazing. Who is he anyway? You have to ask Ji Yanran. 20 points. Li was not his match at all. It is too easy to beat you, huh? My Yanran. Could he really be her boyfriend? You really have to ask her yourself. Ji Yanran also wanted to know who her boyfriend was, but she did not. After logging out of the game, she had contacted a lot of friends, wanting to find out who that person was. However, almost everyone she called would tell her with a trace of gloating, "You have to ask yourself who your boyfriend is." How do I know who my boyfriend is? Ji Yanran blurted out after hearing that reply a lot of times, feeling she was out of her mind after she realized what she had said. In room 304, Han Sen was surrounded by Shi Zhikong, Lu Ming, and Zhang Yang. "San, 4 dishes and a soup in the cafeteria. 1 dish less than that and I will out you," Lu Ming said with a grin. "All 4 dishes need to be meat. If I see anything green, I will expose you first," Shi added. "San, you deserve to be my destined opponent." Zhang Yang's eyes were full of sparks. "Let's go eat then. I'm hungry anyway," Han Sen smiled and said. The 4 walked toward a cafeteria. Blackhawk was the size of a small city, and all cafeterias ran 24/7. There was no need to worry about where to eat. But after the 4 went out, they constantly heard people on the street talking about the duel. "Sin, just go ahead and admit it's you. With your skills at the game, maybe Ji Yanran will fall in love with you. And we can all benefit from that by asking her to introduce her friends to us," Shi whispered. "She is my girlfriend," Han Sen said. Shi made a contemptuous gesture at him. Ji Yanran was not the kind of girl that would fall for a good player. Or else Li Yufeng would not have had to chase after her for 2 years. Everyone knew that. The 4 went to the nearest cafeteria, ordered a few dishes, and chatted over drinks. While eating, Shi suddenly lowered his voice and said to the rest, glancing in one direction, "There is a babe over there, the innocent kind. So pretty. And the other 2 with her are not bad either." "Sure, we don't trust your taste." Lu Ming laughed. Han Sen and Zhang Yang also laughed. They had all witnessed Shi's judgment. A tough lady 6 feet tall was a little beauty in his eyes. But you could not blame him either, as he was too tall himself indeed. "Really? Oh." The babe looked at me and smiled at me. "Here she comes." Shi flushed. His roommates then felt a bit surprised. It looked like someone really was approaching them. They turned to look and saw an innocent, sweet girl with a great body walking toward them. It looked like she was a freshman like themselves. "Brother Han." Under the excited gaze of Shi, she walked to Han Sen and called in a sweet voice, making Shi want to kill Han Sen. "Ming Ming, why are you here?"
Han Sen recognized Wang Meng Meng.
"I came to eat with my classmates and did not expect to meet you here. Let me introduce them. These are my classmates and roommates, Li Zhenjin and Wang Chun." Wang Mingming introduced the 2 girls following her to Han Sen. "Hello." Han Sen shook hands with the 2 girls and introduced his 3 roommates. "Since we are all friends now, shall we sit together?" Shi pulled the chairs and invited the girls. "Well, we happen to have something to ask," Wang Mingming blushed and said. "What's the matter?" "We will do anything for you," promised Shi. Wang Chun looked at Shi and seemed very happy. "It would be great if you could help. We are looking for people to join our society. Have you already registered at some societies? If not, can you join us?" "Well, we did not register yet, so you have come to the right people. With us, your society will do so well." "Right, which society are you talking about?" Shi quickly said, making faces to his roommates to ask them to play along. Judging from the 3 girls' looks, it was easy to tell that the society they were in must have lots of babes. "We are with Heavy Warframe Society," said Wang Chun. Shi almost choked on the water he just drank. Warframe Society was considered a temple of monks, where members were almost all guys. And Heavy Warframe Society would be Shaolin Temple among all temples, where girls were probably nowhere to be seen. The guys had not expected the girls to be members of Heavy Warframe Society. The reason why Heavy Warframe Society was independent from Warframe Society was that heavy warframes were much bigger in size than average warframes and were much harder to operate. Ordinary soldiers did not need to use heavy warframes, and 99.99% of those who operated heavy warframes were male. Sure was dumbfounded, but he could not take back his words, so they all had to go. The next morning, Wang Mingming sent a text to invite the four of them to fill in the application form at Heavy Warframe Society. Fortunately, there were three beautiful girls, Wang Mingming, Wang Chun, and Li Zhenzhen. Therefore, they thought Heavy Warframe Society would not be so unbearable. But when they arrived at Heavy Warframe Society, they found out that it was even worse than they thought. In addition to Wang Mingming, Wang Chun, and Li Zhenzhen, the Heavy Warframe Society had only two returning students, a fat guy and a skinny guy. There were barely any guys, let alone girls. The fat guy was the president of Heavy Warframe Society, and the skinny guy was the only returning member. Han Sen and his roommates failed to memorize their names because the girls only referred to them by their nickname, Fatty and Skinny. Fatty was smiling ear to ear when he saw Wang Mingming taking 4 new members to register, but his face collapsed when he found out they were from Department of Archery. Since there was a special enrollment program for archery students, the requirement of fitness index was lowered for them. Normally speaking, one would have to reach 11 in fitness index to be admitted, but archery students only needed to reach 10 as long as they passed their archery test. The difference of 1 point was a big gap, so archery students might be the weakest in the history of Blackhawk. The operation of heavy warframes required one to have great physique, so Fatty and Skinny were very disappointed when they learned that all 4 were from Department of Archery. Han Sen and his roommates ignored that, filled in the forms, and registered in the society. This is also good. Now we have less competition. Fatty and Skinny would not be able to beat us anyway. Sure was very contented, checking the 3 girls out. Brother Han, we will first take you to see our training field. Wang Mingming was very happy to show Han Sen around. Mingming, this is not right. Why do you call us by names, but call Sen brother? We are all freshmen and he is 3rd oldest among us, only a dozen days older than Lu Ming, Sure said sullenly. Wang Mingming thought about it seriously, tilted her head and said, I think only Brother Han looks like a brother to me. How come we don't? Shu was not convinced, squared his shoulder, made a pose like a bodybuilding model. It does not depend on age or body size. Wang Mingming did not care about Shu's muscles. Shu was speechless, but he had to accept the fact that she would only call Han Sen brother. Li Zhenzhen and Wang Chun soon followed suit. When they came to the training field, the 4 guys were all shocked. They thought that Heavy Warframe Society had so few members that their training field must be small and shabby, and did not expect there to be any heavy warframes. Instead, they had expected to train on a holographic simulator. But their training field turned out to be a large warehouse, with huge space and 3 real heavy warframes, each over 10 meters tall and looking domineering. How about these? Mingming has negotiated for these, Wang Chun said proudly. Han Sen suddenly realized why a society with few members could have such a training field. It was because of Wang Mingming. But it made Han Sen very excited, as he had been studying Warframe operation, but the performance of the Warframe for practice was wanting, and people had to take turns to use it. Although these are heavy Warframes, they were Warframes nonetheless. He did not have to wait to practice on a Warframe in the future. But heavy warframes were different from normal ones in that they had stronger horsepower and bigger sizes. They were generally used for special purposes and were more difficult to operate. They could be very cumbersome as well. But this was not a problem for Han Sen. The difficult operation worked for him. If he could operate a heavy warframe well, an ordinary one would be easy. The 3 heavy warframes on the training field were Rhinoceros T, Porter RS, and Builder. Rhinoceros T1 was a quadruped heavy warframe used for transport. It had a strong load-bearing capacity, and its 4 feet allowed easy access to a variety of terrains. It was also strong in digging and drilling. Even when buried in a mine, it could get out on its own. Porter RS was also a quadruped heavy warframe, with an extra arm and strong horsepower. It was mainly used to organize a warehouse and carry goods. It came with a variety of loading and unloading tools, as well as welding and cutting tools. Builder was a bipedal heavy warframe used for construction, and it was close to an ordinary warframe. Builder, however, had 4 arms, and was much bigger and heavier than in its peers. In addition, the warehouse was also equipped with 10 holographic virtual training machines. Each member could have one, and there were some left. Han Sen suddenly felt that the decision to join the Heavy Warframe Society was brilliant. It was like a paradise to him. Obviously, his roommates were not very interested in practicing on the heavy warframes. They preferred to use the holographic virtual training machine to operate advanced fighting warframes. Someone would use Rhinoceros T1 occasional, while Porter RS and Builder were never used. They were too hard to operate and would not be used for fighting. Generally speaking, those who driving heavy warframes were soldiers of lower ranks, while officers would hardly use these. That was why his roommates were not very interested. Han Sen liked Porter RS and Builder a lot, and would practice on them when he had time. The gratification he got from operating heavy warframes was much greater than using a virtual training machine or warframe for practice. Room 304 happily joined the Heavy Warframe Society, while everyone else in the school was looking for Ji Yanran's boyfriend madly, especially Zhao Lianhua, who was pressured by Lu Jiangwo to find him. However, no one knew who Ji Yanran's boyfriend was, not to mention where he was. In addition to Zhao Lianhua, Ji Yanran was dying to find Han Senator. Now she was sure the boyfriend was not Ouyang Shaosan, because during the match against Li Yufeng, Ouyang was participating in the training of martial arts society and could not have been at the match. Also, Ji Yanran did not believe Ouyang could have beaten Li Yufeng by 20 points. Who was it? Our school has such a hidden master at Hand of God. Ji Yanran thought of that hateful idea and vowed, I will find you after all. If you really want to find him out, I have a way, Chu Lily said with a smile. What way? Ji Yanran did not believe Chu Lily. In fact, the approach is very simple. Since he used that ID, certainly he is one of your admirers. All you need to do is to host a Hand of God contest at school and say the champion's prize is a kiss from you. I think he will participate for sure, said Chu, blinking. Ji Yanran rolled her eyes. What a bad idea. What if he does not show up? Chu Lily suddenly grinned at Ji Yanran and said, So you are willing to kiss him if he's the champion? Hey, that bastard, how could I? Ji Yanran was mad and shy at the same time. She grabbed Chu Lily and threatened, Little girl, wait and see how I tame you. Lily quickly begged for mercy, but Ji Yanran continued to tickle her, and until she was almost out of breath. Chu Lily's idea was not that great, but it did remind Ji Yanran that in more than half a month, a school-wide contest named Starry Cup, sponsored by Starry Group, would start. The prize would be great, and maybe that person would show up and participate. But Ji Yanran did not know which department he was in. Hand of God was just one item in Starry Cup, which also included combat, warframe, archery, and other items. If that person did not come to Hand of God, but registered in another item, it would be difficult to tell who he was. It calls for a little trick, Ji Yanran thought with a devious smile on her face. In the training hall, several students were sitting together. Have you heard that the champion of Hand of God in Starry Cup could get a set of Z Steel weapons of King series and visit the main factory of Starry Group? Who doesn't know that? I heard that Starry Group had also invited the president of Hand of God Society to visit their main factory. The president of Hand of God Society? Isn't that Ji Yanran? Yeah, the visit is 5 days and 4 nights. Wow, I'm definitely going to participate in the contest this time. What is the point? This is clearly meant for Ji Yanran's boyfriend. It's their honeymoon. Everything is possible. People make mistakes. What if Ji Yanran's boyfriend did not do so well this time? He beat Li Yifeng by 20 points. Even if he makes 20 mistakes, he would still be as good as Li. What chance do you stand? Right. Soon the news was spread throughout the school. When Chu Lily heard the news and asked Ji Yanran, the latter smiled and cunningly said, That is what other people say. I have not mentioned a thing. You are obviously stealing my idea. Pay me for the copyright. Chu Lily reached out to tickle Ji. Ji Yanran thought that this could force Han to register for the Hand of God contest, but little did she know that Han Sen had not even heard about it because he had been practicing driving a heavy warframe builder. This was more fun than driving the training warframes. Builder's versatility allowed Han Sen to reach the limit of his speed. In Principal's office, Luo Shangyang looked at Principal Wei and complained, This is nonsense. How could you give the 7th warehouse to Heavy Warframe Society as their training ground? And the 3 heavy warframes are totally beyond the abilities of those students. What if there is an accident? Luo, you have to look at the specific circumstances. Those are good students, and that's why I gave them a relaxed training environment, Wei said slowly. More like rich and powerful students. Luo Xiangyang said with some disdain. You should know that the school has its own difficulties. Luo, you need to get rid of this temper of yours, said Wei earnestly. Luo Xiangyang's face was still gloomy. He said, I do not care what privileges they have. I can give them the warehouse, but the 3 heavy warframes can't be wasted like this. I must get them back. Luo left, disregarding Principal Wei's calling him. Wei shook his head and sighed. A nasty temper indeed. He thought about it and let it go. That young lady would not touch those heavy warframes anyway, so there should be no problem that Luo were to take them away. Luo Xiangyang stepped toward the 7th warehouse and was quite upset. He had wanted this warehouse for a while, and the school never agreed. Then they gave it to the Heavy Warframe Society. He knew everything about Heavy Warframe Society, just several people who were wasting their time. Who would pay attention to heavy warframes anyway? Normal soldiers would not even have the chance to touch them. Only the specialized soldiers would like them. He was now the coach of the Warframe Society, which was doing very well and had lots of members, among which a lot were excellent. However, their training field and equipment were quite lacking. He wanted to use the 7th warehouse as a training field, but the school had never approved and later gave it to Heavy Warframe Society. How could he stay calm knowing that? But Luo Xiangyang also knew that Principal Wei was having a hard time. So he was fine with giving them the warehouse, but the 3 heavy warframes should not be wasted like that. He planned to take them back to his society and pick a few students to practice on them. If possible, he'd like to train those students into professional heavy warframe operators. When Luo Xiangyang came to the 7th warehouse, he saw Builder was driven by someone, doing a lot of strange moves on the training ground. The reason that the move seemed strange was that Builder was holding a thick and long alloy tube in each of its 4 hands, wielding the tubes as swords like a human. Because Builder itself was too cumbersome and had 4 arms, its actions looked very odd. Luo Xiangyang looked at it and was slightly surprised. Anyone able to drive Builder like this must have reached the level of an evolver. Which teacher or coach in the school is driving Builder? Luo Xiangyang could not think of any student, as an unevolved person could hardly achieve this speed. After watching for a while, Luo Xiangyang started to have a craving. He used to be a heavy warframe soldier and operate heavy warframes as combat warframes for fun. After he entered the school, he did not have heavy warframes to play with and few knew how to operate heavy warframes, so he had no one to spar with either. When he saw someone using a heavy warframe to mimic a combat warframe, his craving was evoked. Seeing Porter RS parked on the other side, Luo Xiangyang went directly into its cockpit and activated it using his coach authorization. Han Sen was practicing driving Builder because it was the closest to an ordinary combat warframe. Suddenly, Han Sen saw a shadow coming toward him from the holographic image. With his strong reflexes, he immediately operated Builder to raise one of the tubes it was grabbing to block that shadow. Clank! A loud clanking of metals rang and Han Sen saw that it was Porter RS that had attacked him using its 30-foot-long multifunction wrench. And on Porter RS' other arm, the cutter was turned on and waved toward him. Han Sen did not have any time to consider who was driving Porter's RS, but had to block it with another tube in Builder's hand. The alloy tube was cut off by the cutter instantly, and the fearsome blade, spinning at a high speed, was approaching Builder. Shocked, Han Sen pushed the speed of his hands to the limit, manipulating Builder to step back and avoided the swing from Porter RS. Good! Luo Xiangyang exclaimed in excitement, controlling the Porter RS to launch crazy attacks against Builder. The giant wrench, cutter, drill bits, hooks, and other tools all became terrifying weapons with his control. Luo Xiangyang took his opponent for a veteran because he believed no one could use Builder like this otherwise. An unevolved person could never achieve this level. Han Sen was a bit dumbfounded and did not know who was driving Porter RS. This person had better operation and speed than Han Sen as well. Even when Han Sen was trying with all he had, he still could not make any progress and was about to be defeated. Han Sen did not want to accept this failure and used what he learned from Hand of God. raising the speed of his hand to level evolved 4. Suddenly he became the incarnation of the thousand-hand Buddha, completing various complex operations at dazzling speed. Luo Xiangyang felt his opponent was a bit weaker in the beginning, and thought maybe this guy was probably just a low-level heavy warframe soldier. Also, it seemed this guy had not operated a heavy warframe in a long time and was obviously a bit rusty. But soon, Luo Xiangyang found the guy became so much better that it was like Builder had become alive. Flexible and swift, it was more like a combat warframe and a heavy one. Luo Xiangyang was ecstatic. It was so rare that he encountered such an opponent. Using all he had, he was on the same level as his opponent. Then Luo Xiangyang found that this guy was also rapidly improving. When fighting with Luo, this guy's operation was more and more accurate, which again convinced Luo that this was a retired heavy warframe soldier like himself. Awesome! Luo Xiangyang had not been so happy in a long time. If he had to describe, he would have said the ordinary combat warframes were like women and heavy warframes were like men. The domineering feeling, the clanking of the wrench and alloy tubes, and the pressure his body was under, all brought Luo's blood to a boil, reminding him of the days when he was in the army. The two large-scale heavy warframes were constantly colliding into each other, and the sounds kept echoing in the warehouse. Han Sen did not know who he was fighting, but felt much pressure. Even when he was using all he got, he was still completely overwhelmed. His opponent was so much better than him in technique, and Han Sen had learned a lot. Is it fatty or skinny? Indeed, they are more experienced than I am, Han Sen was guessing. There were only a few people in the society, and he knew his roommates, and the girls were not able to achieve this level, so fatty and skinny were all that were left. Han Sen did not expect that the person he was fighting would be the coach of Warframe Society and a veteran in heavy warframe operation. Han Sen had no hard feelings, but was quite excited about a fight like this, because he could learn so much more from it than when he practiced alone. It seems that I have underestimated fatty and skinny. I need to practice more often with them, Han Sen thought. Having been fighting for an hour, Han Sen was unable to handle the physical stress brought by the fight and came out of the warframe. He was soaked in his own sweat. Operating a heavy warframe like Builder could stress one out easily, and it was impressive that Han Sen had been operating it for such a long time. Luo Xiangyang felt a bit unsatisfied, but did not insist when seeing his opponent had stopped. He came out of the cockpit and wanted to meet this person. Since they were both veterans, they could communicate and fight again later. But he was stunned when he saw the man coming out of Builder. He always thought that this guy must be a veteran, but the person coming out of Builder was a fair-skinned young man of no more than 17 years of age. He must have not even reached the age to serve, and thus could not be a veteran. You are a student? Luo Xiangyang asked. Hello, I am Han Senator. I have just entered the Heavy Warframe Society. Are you also in our society? I have never met you. Your skills are amazing. Could you teach me when you have time? Han Sen said with a smile. You just entered the Heavy Warframe Society? You are a freshman? Luo Xiangyang could not believe that he was just sparring with a freshman. Yes, I joined our society 7 or 8 days ago, replied Han Sen. Have you ever driven a heavy warframe before?
No.
Before I was using the training warframes at school to practice and only had the opportunity to use a heavy warframe after I joined the society. It is much harder than using a training warframe, and I have not made much progress. You, on the other hand, are so much better. I had to shapeshift using a beast soul to hang in there, explained Han Sen. Although in Han's view, this schoolmate seemed a bit older, Han Sen had to admit that he was skilled. Luo Xiangyang's thought sullenly, you only touched a heavy warframe for the first time a few days ago, and now you can fight me. If you are calling this not much progress, then everyone in my society should probably kill themselves. What is your department? How did you join the Heavy Warframe Society? Luo Xiangyang believed if he could poach this guy and get him to join Warframe Society instead, then Warframe Society could probably be in the top 10, no, top 5 in the Alliance. I am in the Department of Archery, and a friend introduced me to join our society, Han Sen said. Archery Department? Luo Xiangyang regretted so much that he had never looked into that department full of specially enrolled students. Had he looked, he would have never let a talent go somewhere like Heavy Warframe Society. When Luo Xiangyang was thinking about how to persuade Han Sen to quit Heavy Warframe Society and join Warframe Society, Han's comlink rang. Han Sen only thought Luo Xiangyang was a senior, so he answered the call. Brother, I need to run now. Let's have another go next time. Han Sen hung up and said, waving to Luo. Not having had the time to start his persuasion before Han Sen took off, Luo thought to himself, anyway, now that I know who he is, I can always come back later. Looking at the 3 heavy warframes, Luo Xiangyang did not intend to move them away anymore. Since Han Sen was still here, he will let Han use them and move these warframes when Han transferred to Warframe Society. Luo Xiangyang was really glad when he left the 7th warehouse, celebrating the fact that he had found such a genius. No longer discontent about the fact that Principal Wei gave the warehouse to someone else, he was focused on the idea of getting Han Sen to join Warframe Society. As a freshman, Han Sen still had years left in Blackhawk. Maybe in these years, he could build a champion team in the Alliance. After coming out of the 7th warehouse, Han Sen went to a cafeteria. His roommates asked him to bring them some snacks, and Han Sen was also hungry himself after his Warframe fight. This cafeteria was very close to their dormitory and had great fruit juices. Han Sen almost had a juice here every day, but the juices were particularly sought after and always sold out early. Han Sen forgot about the time when fighting Luo Xiangyang and only came after being reminded by his roommates. When he arrived at the place, he was surprised to see there was only 1 bottle of juice left and quickly swiped to pay for it. But when he finished the payment and was reaching for the bottle of juice, another hand grabbed the bottle. Han Sen quickly looked up and saw that person looking back at him. You! The two called out almost at the same time. Han Sen saw the sweet face in front of him and was slightly surprised, not expecting to see Ji Yanran here. Apparently, Ji Yanran was also surprised to see him. She frowned and asked, "Why are you here?" "I am a Blackhawk student and have, of course, come here to eat," Han Sen replied. "Didn't think you would be admitted." Ji Yanran curled her lips and looked at Han Sen's hand on the bottle. "Let go. You are the one who should let go." "I paid first," said Han Sen. Ji Yanran gave him a glance full of disdain. "Your pickup line is too old. Let go, or I will yell." "What do you mean by pickup line? Why do I need that? Have you seen anyone using a pickup line on his girlfriend?"
Han Sen sighed.
Ji Yanran disagreed. "You have the nerve to mention that, cheater. Who cheated?"
Han Sen frov ned.
"If you did not cheat, why didn't you come to find me?" Ji Yanran had identified Han Sen as a cheater because he did not dare to come to her. "I did not have time," said Han Sen. "Oh, save it please." Ji Yanran rolled her pretty eyes. "Suit yourself, but I really did pay first for the juice." Han Sen did not bother to explain. "I grabbed it first, and I paid as well. Please come early next time," Ji Yanran said with a smile. Looking at Ji Yanran, Han Sen suddenly bowed his head, stretched out his tongue, and pretended to lick her hand on the bottle. Ji Yanran screamed and cringed. "Please come early next time." Han Sen grabbed the bottle, waved his hand at her, and walked away with a grin. What a shameless guy. Ji Yanran bit her lips and saw Han Sen taking the juice away sullenly. When she saw Han Sen go away to buy other things, she had an idea, so she took a detour and approached him from another side. When he put the juice down to reach for something else, she grabbed the bottle and turned away. "Hey, how can you do that?" Han Sen was carrying his roommate's snacks with both hands and had to look at Ji Yanran, who was already away. "A tooth for a tooth." Ji Yanran stuck out her little pink tongue and made a face before she happily walked away.